At her wedding, my sister called me our parasite in front of her boss. He fired her on the spot. My name is Elisa, and I'm 37 years old. They say your wedding day is the happiest day of your life. Well, I wasn't the one getting married. It was my younger sister Daniela's wedding. And that day, what was supposed to be the happiest for her, became the day my family tried to bury me alive. The story begins, like so many family stories, with a sacrifice no one asked for, but everyone expected. 3 years ago, I was an associate director at one of the most important public relations firms in Mexico City. I had a bright future, a salary that allowed me to live well, and the respect of my colleagues. But then, Mom got sick. The diagnosis was brutal. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. From one day to the next, my world was reduced to the metallic smell of hospitals and the sound of heart monitors. My sister Daniela, who lived 20 minutes from the hospital, said she couldn't handle it, that her marketing career was at a crucial point and the stress was too much. Our father, well, he was too busy with his new wife and his new life to deal with the disasters of his old one. So it was me. I quit my job, cancelled the lease on my apartment in Condesa, and moved back into my childhood home, into the room with floral wallpaper that hadn't changed in 20 years. For 3 years, my life was a blur of medical appointments, chemotherapy, sleepless nights, morphine, and the silent terror of watching the woman who gave me life fade away before my eyes. While I was learning how to insert IVs and clean up what the sick body could no longer hold, I watched Daniela's life through the painful window of Instagram. Daniela in Cancun celebrating a promotion. Daniela at a fancy dinner toasting with champagne. Daniela receiving a bonus and buying a new car. Meanwhile, I was trying to get Mom to eat half a cup of broth. Mom died 6 months ago on a rainy Tuesday morning, and now here I was at Daniela's wedding. The venue was obscenely expensive. A historic garden on the outskirts of the city with marble columns, chandeliers dripping crystal, and floral arrangements so tall they looked like exotic trees. Every guest smelled of expensive perfume, of money. That scent, which to them was luxury, turned my stomach. It reminded me of the sweet, cloying smell of flowers in the hospice room, the smell of death. I felt like a stain on a perfect photograph. My dress was a simple navy blue one, bought from a thrift store for 500 pesos. My shoes, the only decent pair I had left, had a slightly worn left heel. I watched my father, beaming in his suit, walk Daniela down the aisle. His chest was puffed out with pride. Not once did he look toward where I was sitting, alone in the third row. My stepmother, in a ridiculous hat, dabbed at fake tears with an embroidered handkerchief. During the cocktail hour, I clung to a single glass of champagne, making it last almost an hour. I couldn't afford to lose control. Not there, not that day. I was at the reception at table 19, the one furthest from the dance floor, hidden behind a floral arrangement. I was picking at a salad that probably cost more than my week's groceries. Then I saw her. Daniela had changed into her second dress, a short, sparkly number that screamed money. She was radiant, tanned from her latest vacation, and clearly several glasses of champagne in. Her eyes found me in the darkness. Ella, her voice was too sharp, too cheerful. There you are, hiding as usual. She grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. Her new diamond rings dug into my skin. Come on. I want you to meet someone very important. Before I could protest, she was dragging me across the room. I hated the feeling of being watched. I hated feeling their eyes on my cheap dress, on my hair that I had styled myself. We stopped in front of a man in his 60s, tall, with silver hair and a suit that fit him like a glove. He exuded power. Mr. Ventura, Daniela cooed. He turned, interrupting his conversation, and looked at us with that polite attention powerful men have. Daniela, how nice to see you. Congratulations, he said in a deep voice. Thank you, sir. And look, I want to introduce you to someone. Daniela made a grand gesture towards me, who was still paralyzed, wishing the earth would swallow me whole. Then she said it, loudly, so that the 3 closest tables could hear her perfectly. Mr. Ventura, I present to you my sister, Elisa. She's our family's parasite. The world went silent. I swear it. The ringing in my ears was deafening. The laugh started, first uncomfortable, then open. And to top it off, my father approached, placing a proud hand on Daniela's shoulder. That's right. She's our shame, he added, laughing. She gave up a great career for nothing. We tried to tell her, but Elisa never listens. 200 pairs of eyes, 200 gazes stabbing me. My face burned. My throat closed up. It wasn't just embarrassment, it was the public confirmation of what I had always known. To them, I was a nobody, a burden, a parasite. I stood there frozen as my world fell apart. I expected Mr. Ventura to laugh, to give me a condescending pat on the shoulder and continue his conversation. But he didn't. Mr. Ignacio Ventura did not laugh. His face, once kind, hardened like marble. His eyes moved from Daniela to my father, and then they settled on me. He looked at me. Really looked at me. He saw my cheap dress, yes. But he also saw my worn shoes and, I don't know how, he seemed to see the 3 years of hell I had lived through. He saw the humiliation on my face. The silence stretched, becoming uncomfortable for everyone. Daniela's smile faltered. Then he spoke. His voice wasn't loud, it was calm, precise, and absolutely final. He addressed my sister. Ma'am, he said, using her new title with an icy venom. Since you earn enough to support parasites, I assume you don't need this job. Daniela blinked. What? Clear out your desk on Monday. You're fired. The room fell silent. The music seemed to stop. Daniela's face went from red to pale white in a second. No, Mr. Ventura, it was a joke. We were just joking. My father stepped forward. Ignacio, there's been a serious misunderstanding. Mr. Ventura held up a hand, and my father, a man who never shut up, snapped his mouth shut. There is no misunderstanding, sir, Ventura said. I understood perfectly. In my company, we do not employ people who lack the most basic human decency. He made an almost imperceptible signal. 2 men in suits, who were clearly his personal security and not from the event, appeared on either side of Daniela. But it's my wedding, she whimpered as they gently took her by the arms. And how sad that you've ruined it this way, Ventura replied. As they escorted her towards the exit, past the 5-tiered cake and the champagne fountain, she looked at me. Not with regret, but with hatred. Pure, burning hatred. In the midst of the chaos, as the guests whispered and my father and stepmother ran after her, Mr. Ventura turned to me, stepped closer, and slipped a business card into my hand. My palm was sweaty and trembling. Your mother, Rosa, he whispered, so low that only I could hear. She saved my daughter's life once. Call me on Monday. We have a lot to talk about. He turned and walked away, leaving a trail of chaos behind him and me in the middle of the room with a business card in my hand that felt heavier than the whole world. I walked out of there like a sleepwalker. No one stopped me. I crossed the luxurious lobby, went out into the cool night air, and walked to the farthest corner of the parking lot, where I had hidden my old Suru. The engine started on the second try. A miracle for that car. I drove aimlessly. I couldn't go home. My small rented apartment still smelled of Mom, of her lavender sachets and medicinal ointment. It was a sanctuary, and I felt too tainted by the humiliation to enter it. I drove through the streets of the city where I grew up. The car, on its own, took the road to my old high school. The lights were off, but the memories shone brightly. I was 16. I had won the state essay contest, a full scholarship of 150,000 pesos for university. I came home waving the letter, feeling like I could fly. My father took it, read it, and his face showed not pride, but annoyance. "Daniela is applying for this same scholarship next year," he said without looking at me. "If you accept it now, you'll hurt her chances. They don't like giving it to siblings 2 years in a row. Don't be selfish, Elisa." I didn't understand. "I won it, but Dad, I worked for it." "Ella," his voice was thunder. "Your sister isn't as naturally brilliant as you are. She needs this help. You'll manage. You always do." I withdrew my application. The following year, Daniela won that same scholarship. My parents cried with pride at the ceremony. I kept driving. I passed the public university where I had studied my first 2 years. The fund our grandparents had left for both of us mysteriously evaporated when it was my turn. Bad investments, my father explained with charts that made no sense. But the money magically reappeared 2 years later, just in time to pay for Daniela's expensive private university. My phone vibrated in my purse. I pulled it out at a red light. 47 messages. My stomach sank. I started reading. "Father, you've always been jealous of your sister. Tonight proves it. You have broken this family. Stepmother, Daniela is devastated. I hope you're proud of your scene. A distant aunt, what shameful behavior, Elisa. Your mother would have raised you better." I was about to throw the phone out the window when I saw a message from an unknown number. "I saw what happened at the wedding. What they did to you was disgusting. You deserve better. An old friend." I didn't recognize the number. But those words were the first breath of fresh air in hours. The Suru took me, almost by instinct, to the Panteon de Dolores cemetery. The main gates were closed, of course, it was past 11 p.m., but I knew this place. I knew the hole in the rusted fence at the back, where I used to sneak in during Mom's last months of life, when I needed to scream at the universe away from her ears. I took off my worn heels and walked barefoot on the damp grass. My sailrack dress snagged on dry branches. I found her grave under the large cypress tree. Rosa Morales de Lo. Beloved Mother. I had insisted on the word, beloved, while my father suggested a simple, rest in peace. I fell to my knees and for the first time since the humiliation, I allowed myself to break. These weren't silent tears, it was an ugly, guttural cry that came from the depths of my chest. "I tried, Mom." I shouted at the cold headstone. "I swear I tried. I gave up everything for you. I took care of you when no one else would. I gave them 3 years of my life. And for what? For them to call me a parasite?" The pain gave way to rage. A pure, white-hot rage that burned hotter than the tears. Rage against Daniela for her cruelty, against my father for his favoritism, and yes, a little rage against Mom. Rage because she had never stood up to him, and she had never taught me how to either. But then I remembered her last lucid words. She grabbed my hand, her skin like rice paper but with surprising strength. "You are stronger than they think, my girl. Promise me you won't let them define you." "I promise, Mommy." I had broken that promise. I had let them define me as the failure, the spinster, the parasite. I touched the marble. "It's over, Mom," I whispered, my voice hardening. "No more. I won't let them bury me like they buried you. I'm going to show them who I am. I swear it." I clutched Ignacio Ventura's business card in my fist. "Call me on Monday." Today was Saturday. It would be the longest wait of my life. I got to my apartment at dawn. I slept for 4 hours and woke up still in my party dress, stained with dirt and grass. Sunday felt gray and heavy. I researched Mr. Ventura. He wasn't just a CEO, he was a multimillionaire philanthropist, owner of Ventura Industries with investments in technology and pharmaceuticals. He had donated millions to children's hospitals. What on earth did a man like that have to do with my mother, a simple nurse? I spent the day rehearsing the call. Mr. Ventura, this is Elisa Lowe. No, too weak. Mr. Ventura. We spoke at the wedding. No, too informal. On Sunday afternoon, while I was trying to eat a bowl of cereal, there was a knock on my door. It was Donna Carmen, my neighbor from 302, a sweet 80-year-old woman who had been in Mom's book club. She was holding a wooden box. Elisa, dear, she said in her soft voice, your mother left this for you. I recognized the box instantly. It was Grandma's old recipe book, a thick, worn leather-bound notebook where 3 generations of women in my family had written their secrets. She gave it to me a month before she went to the hospice, Donna Carmen said. She gave me very clear instructions. Give it to Elisa only when you know she's ready, when they've pushed her too far. When something like what happened at that wedding happens. My pulse quickened. You know what happened? Dear, news travels fast. Here. She knew this day would come. I took the book. It felt heavier than I remembered. I opened it on the kitchen table. There was Grandma Gracia's mole poblano recipe, Mom's churros, the tres leches cake. But between the vanilla-stained pages were other things, things that didn't belong there. Printouts of emails, drafts of public relations strategies, contracts. I recognized my work. It was a complete PR campaign I had designed for a sustainable fashion brand 5 years ago. A project I was immensely proud of, but had to abandon when Mom got worse. Underneath was a printout of an email from Daniela, sent 3 weeks after I left the firm. It was my campaign, my strategy, my text, presented to a client as if it were her own. And there was the irrefutable proof, my personal spelling mistake. I always wrote conscientia, consciousness/awareness, with an SC, conscientia, when the context called for a C, conscientia. It was a silly mistake my teachers always marked. And there it was, in Daniela's presentation, creating brand conscientia with an SC. She had copied and pasted my work so blatantly she hadn't even bothered to run a spell check. I kept turning the pages with trembling hands, campaign after campaign, idea after idea. My entire career, summarized in my sister's hands. Mom had been documenting everything. Then I saw it. Taped to the inside back cover, there was a small manila envelope. Inside, a USB drive. It had a sticker with Mom's shaky handwriting. For my Elisa. When the time comes. My heart was pounding against my ribs. I plugged the USB into my old laptop. There was only one folder, the truth. Inside were dozens of files. The first one I opened was an email chain between Daniela and my father. Daniela, Dad, Elisa's idea for the eco-campaign is good. Do you think she'll notice if I use it? She's too busy with Mom to worry about this. Father, Elisa made her choice. Talent shouldn't be wasted. Use it, polish it. It's for the good of the family. I felt the air leave my lungs. He didn't just know, he had encouraged her. He was the mastermind behind it all. There were timelines, documents showing the exact dates I had created a concept and the dates Daniela had presented it as her own. It was meticulous, it was terrifying. And then I saw the audio file. Rosa_father_confrontation.mp3, my hand was shaking so much I could barely click it. My mother's voice filled the apartment. She sounded younger, stronger. Rosa, you can't ask her to do that. It's Elisa's work. It's her future you're giving to Daniela. Father, in a calm voice, the one he used to manipulate, Rosa, please. Daniela needs this boost. She's more sociable, has more charisma. Elisa always manages on her own. She's too independent. She'll be fine. Rosa, crying, "You're not helping Daniela. You're turning her into a thief, and you're stealing from your own daughter." Father, his voice turning ice cold, "I am securing this family's future, and I suggest you don't interfere. Elisa made her choice to be a nurse. Let her live with it." The file ended. I stared at the screen, the silence buzzing in my ears. A small folded piece of paper had fallen out of the recipe book. I picked it up. Mom's handwriting, shakier this time, probably from her last weeks. Talk to Pastor Ruth. She knows everything about the money. Trust Ventura. He knows about the lie. Mom hadn't just left me recipes, she had left me a war map. She had left me a loaded and aimed arsenal. And on Monday, I was going to pull the trigger. Wow, what a discovery. Elisa's mother wasn't just a victim, she was a strategist. If you're enjoying this story and want to know what happens when Elisa calls Mr. Ventura, please like this video right now and subscribe to the channel. Oh, and leave me a comment telling me what city or country you're listening from. Every comment, every like helps this story reach more people. Thank you so much for your support, really. Monday at 9 a.m. sharp, my finger trembled over the number on the business card. I dialed. Ventura Industries, Mr. Ventura's office. Good morning. Good morning, I cleared my throat to sound professional. This is Elisa Lowe. I'm calling for Mr. Ventura. I expected hold music, questions, filters. Instead, the assistant's voice turned warm. "Ah, Miss Lowe, how lovely to hear from you. Mr. Ventura was expecting your call. I'll put you through." He was expecting me. Ignacio Ventura's deep voice filled the receiver. "Thank you for calling. I know Saturday was difficult. I'm sorry to have contributed to the drama that night." "Mr. Ventura. You didn't contribute to the drama. You responded to it. But I'm not calling about that. You mentioned my mother." There was a pause. "Yes. What I have to tell you is not something for the phone. Could you come to my office today? Say, at 11. At 10:45, I was standing in front of a glass and steel skyscraper in the heart of Polanco. I felt tiny in my only decent pantsuit, which I hadn't worn in 3 years. The assistant greeted me with a genuine smile and led me to the corner office. It was huge, with a view of the entire city, but it was decorated with warmth dark wood furniture, comfortable armchairs, and an entire wall filled with family photos. Ventura gestured for me to sit on a leather sofa. "Thank you for coming, Elisa. I know this must be very confusing. You said my mother saved your daughter." He nodded, his face softening. 15 years ago, my daughter Lydia was 8. My wife was traveling. I took Lydia to a birthday party, and a drunk driver ran a red light and hit us. His voice broke slightly. Lydia took the worst of the impact. Internal bleeding, fractured skull. The doctors didn't think she would make it through the night. I was alone, devastated, in that hospital waiting room. He got up and picked up a framed photo from his desk. He showed it to me. It was my mother, Rosa, 15 years younger, in her volunteer uniform, holding the hand of a pale little girl in a hospital bed. "Your mother was a volunteer that night. She wasn't assigned to Lydia, but she saw me. She saw me huddled in the hallway, losing my mind, and she sat with me all night." Tears welled up in his eyes and mine. "She sat with me, Elisa, she told me about her 2 little girls, about their antics. She made me pray, even though I'm not a religious man. She brought me coffee, she kept me from falling apart. When Lydia came out of surgery at dawn and the doctor said she would live, I tried to pay her. I wanted to donate to the hospital in her name. She refused." He paused, imitating my mother's soft voice. "Take care of your little girl. That's all the payment I need." "I tried to find her for years," Ventura continued. "I wanted to thank her properly, but she had moved, quit. I lost track of her until 5 years ago. My heart skipped a beat. Daniela. Daniela Hart applied for a junior marketing position. I saw her application, and under the emergency contact, I read the name, Rosa, mother. I couldn't believe it. I interviewed her myself. I asked about her mother, the nurse, and I knew it was her. He looked at me intently. I asked if she had any siblings. I held my breath. She told me about you, Elisa. She said you were her older sister and that you had died in a car accident 3 years ago. The air left my lungs like a punch. What? She cried, Ventura said, his voice filled with contained anger. She wiped her tears and said how hard it had been for her mother. I was devastated. I had found Rosa's daughter but had lost the chance to meet you. So I hired her. I thought it was the least I could do for Rosa, to help the only daughter she had left. I promoted her quickly. I wanted to repay my debt. And then, he said, I saw you at that wedding. Alive. And when she called you a parasite, I knew she had lied to me about everything, and I understood the kind of person I'd had on my payroll. But there's more, he said, opening a drawer. Your mother contacted me 6 months ago. She saw my name in a business article. We met in secret. Elisa, she told me everything. The stolen ideas, your father's manipulation. She was terrified for you. He pulled out a document. Rosa established a trust for you. She named 2 supervisors, me, and a certain Pastor Ruth. I left Ventura's office with my head spinning. Daniela's lie was monstrous. To say I was dead. I followed the next clue on my mother's map. I drove to the small community church in the neighborhood where we grew up. Pastor Ruth was in her office, a simple room filled with books and sunlight. She was a woman in her 70s with white hair in a bun and the kindest eyes I had ever seen. Elisa Lowe, she said, smiling as if she had been waiting for me my whole life. I knew you would come. She hugged me. A warm, grandmotherly hug. Your mother was my best friend, and she made me promise to tell you the truth when you were ready. And after Saturday, I think you're ready. We sat in 2 old chairs. Elisa, what I'm about to tell you is painful. I witnessed how your father destroyed your mother. Not just emotionally, financially. I told her what I had found. The USB, the audio. She nodded without surprise. There's something that audio didn't capture, she said. Your grandmother Gracia's inheritance. Grandma? But Dad said she didn't leave anything. He lied. Your grandmother Gracia left a considerable sum. 5 million pesos. 5 million Mexican pesos to be divided equally between her 2 granddaughters, you and Daniela. I felt the floor disappear. What? Where is that money? Your father gave it all to Daniela. How? Mom allowed it? Pastor Ruth's eyes filled with tears. I was there, Elisa. I was at your house visiting Rosa right after her diagnosis. Your father arrived not as a concerned ex-husband, but as a businessman closing a deal. He brought papers. He told your mother that you were irresponsible, that you had thrown your career away, that you would waste the money. He said it was better for the family to manage those funds, meaning him, and that it would all go to Daniela. Mom wouldn't have signed that, I protested. She didn't, Ruth said. At first, she refused. She yelled at him to get out. And then he threatened her. He threatened her. Your father, Ruth said, her voice trembling with repressed anger, told your mother, newly diagnosed with cancer, that if she didn't sign those papers, he would make sure to spread the rumor that she had been fired from her nursing job for stealing medicine. But that's a lie. I shouted. Of course it is, but Rosa was sick. She was terrified. She was afraid the stress of a public scandal, of an investigation, would kill her before the disease did. She was afraid it would drag you through the mud with her. So, believing she was protecting you from the scandal, she signed. She signed away your inheritance and gave it to him. I was trembling. The man who had called me a parasite had stolen millions from me. But your mother was strong, Elisa, Ruth said, taking my hand. And your grandmother Gracia was a saint, but she wasn't a fool. She knew your father. She pulled a small brass key from her desk. Your grandmother established a second, secret trust. And she gave your mother a final message that your mother saved for you. What is this? It's the key to a safe deposit box at the bank. Number 217. Go now, Elisa. It's time for you to hear your mother's last message. Pastor Ruth insisted on coming with me. We went to the downtown bank. I felt like I was in an unreal movie. The bank manager led us to the vault. The cold metal, the silence. He opened box 217 and left us alone in a private viewing room. I held my breath and lifted the lid. Inside were 4 things, a 5-page letter in Mom's handwriting, an old savings passbook from a bank that no longer existed, a small silver cross necklace, the one she wore every day of my life, and another USB drive identical to the first. I opened the savings passbook. The final balance took my breath away. 850,000 pesos. The money she had secretly saved for 20 years. I opened the letter. Tears blurred my vision. My dearest Elisa, if you are reading this, I am gone, and you finally know the truth. I was a coward, my girl. I ask for your forgiveness. I was too weak to stand up to your father. I chose peace over justice, and in doing so, I failed you. I kept reading. Every word was a mix of love and pain. She explained that she had saved that money for me so I could have a clean start, away from him. Finally, I plugged the USB into the room's terminal. My mother's face appeared. She was in the hospice, pale, emaciated, but her eyes. Her eyes burned with an intensity one recognized. "Hello, my brave girl," she whispered, and hearing her voice again was like a punch to the chest. "If you're watching this, you know everything. You know what your father did, what Daniela did, and what I didn't do to stop them. I failed you, Elisa. I let fear paralyze me. I stayed silent when I should have screamed." Tears streamed down her face on the screen. "But now," she said, leaning closer, "I am giving you what I couldn't give you in life. I'm giving you the truth. I'm giving you the resources. And I'm giving you one last request." Her eyes locked on the camera as if she were looking straight into my soul. "Listen to me, my love. Don't use this information to destroy them. Use it to free yourself. I have learned too late that revenge poisons the one who serves it. But justice. Justice heals the one who seeks it. Choose wisely, my Elisa. Be the strong woman I couldn't be. I love you. I'll be watching." The video ended. I stared at the black screen, tears falling onto my hands. I put on my mother's silver cross necklace. I felt the cold metal against my skin. I was no longer a victim. I was the executor of my mother's legacy. Before making any move, I needed the last piece. I called my former colleague and friend, Sarah Chin. Sarah is a cybersecurity genius, a top-tier ethical hacker. We met at a discreet cafe. I told her everything. The wedding, Ventura, the notebook, the USBs. Her eyes widened. "Elisa, this is insane. What do you need from me?" "I need this to be irrefutable," I said, handing her a copy of all the files. "I need metadata. Forensic proof. Something a corporate lawyer can't dismiss as family drama." Sarah smiled. A dangerous smile. "Consider it done." 3 days later, she called me. "Are you sitting down? I've got it. It's better than you thought." We met again. Sarah opened her laptop. "First," she said, "the spelling proof, the conscientia with an SC error. I found it not just in that presentation, but in 12 different documents Daniela submitted to clients over 3 years. It's a pattern. But here's the crown jewel, she said, opening a file's properties. This is the PDF file of Daniela's award-winning presentation, the one that got her the big promotion. She clicked on Document Properties. Look at this. Author, Elisa Lowe, I read aloud, and my heart stopped. Exactly, Sarah said. Your sister is so lazy and so stupid that she stole your original file, renamed it, and saved it as a PDF, but she never, ever cleared the metadata. Your name has been on her biggest professional success this whole time. And the cherry on top, Sarah said, showing one last screen. I traced the IP addresses that accessed your cloud backup files right after you left the firm. Guess what? The IP belongs to your father's law firm. He went in, downloaded your work, and gave it to her on a silver platter. I had the theft, I had the extortion, I had the forensic proof. I had everything. A week later, with all my evidence lined up, my phone rang. It was my father. His voice was syrupy, fake. Elisa, honey. What happened at the wedding was terrible. Emotions were running high. Your stepmother and I want to invite you to dinner this Saturday. Just family, to heal, to talk like adults. I almost laughed. Heal. I knew exactly what this was. They knew Ventura had contacted me. They were scared. Of course, Dad, I said in my sweetest voice. I'd love to. I arrived on Saturday at his house, the house where I grew up, the house that now smelled of my stepmother's cooking. Daniela was there, pale, quiet, without her husband. The atmosphere was so tense you could cut it with a knife. My father poured wine. About the wedding. Daniela was wrong. It was inappropriate. It was cruel, I corrected, taking a sip of water. He sighed, visibly annoyed by my lack of cooperation. Listen, I know things haven't been easy for you. Without a job, with everything. Your stepmother and I want to help you. He pulled out a checkbook. We want to give you a gift to help you start over. Open that bakery you used to talk about. How does 350,000 pesos sound? There it was. The bribe. 350,000 pesos to buy my silence. I smiled. Wow, Dad, that's very generous. Let me think about it. We finished dinner in uncomfortable silence. I got up to leave. Thank you for dinner. It was enlightening. I reached into my purse to get my keys and, accidentally, pulled out a USB drive, the same one Sarah Chen had prepared for me. I dropped it on the floor. Oh, how clumsy. Daniela, sitting closest, reflexively bent down and picked it up. Is this yours? She asked, looking at it. I feigned confusion. Oh, yes, thank you. It's just a copy of some old files, things Mom left me, you know. I looked her directly in the eye. Actually, why don't you keep it? Consider it a late wedding gift. Maybe you'll learn something about the difference between talent and theft. I placed it in her hand. Her skin was ice cold. I turned and walked out of the house, feeling her eyes and my father's burning into my back. The bait was set. I knew they wouldn't be able to resist seeing what was on that drive. I got to my apartment and turned off my phone. I didn't want interruptions. I wanted them to stew in their own juice. At 2 a.m., I turned the phone on out of curiosity. I had 34 missed calls, all from Daniela. A second later, it rang again. Daniela, I answered. All I heard were hysterical sobs, screams. Monster. How could you? That audio. How dare you record Mom and Dad? I didn't record anything, Daniela. Mom did. There was a choked silence. You're lying. And the metadata. Everything. You're trying to destroy us. I'm presenting the truth. Something you and Dad trampled on for years. You don't know what you've done, she screamed. You don't know what's happening. Enlighten me. Her voice broke completely. Alisa, I'm pregnant. I'm 6 weeks. The phone almost fell from my hand. Pregnant. A baby. An innocent child about to be born into this nest of vipers. I felt a pang of something. Pity. It was not a complication. A baby, I said coldly. Congratulations. And that justifies theft, extortion, lies. No, but you can't do this to me now. You can't destroy my life when you're what, Daniela? Vulnerable? Where was that concern for vulnerability when you called me a parasite in front of 200 people? Where was it when you stole my career while I was caring for our dying mother? I didn't know Dad had threatened her, I swear. I only knew about the ideas. Only knew about the ideas. I laughed. A dry, joyless laugh. Oh, well, that fixes everything. Forgive me, sister. Please, forgive me, she whimpered. It was the first time she had called me sister in maybe 15 years, and she used it like a weapon. Daniela, I said, my voice as cold as ice. Don't ask me for forgiveness because you got caught. Don't ask for mercy using an unborn baby as a shield. Call me when you're ready to face the consequences of your actions, not just when you're trying to avoid them. I hung up the phone. I stood trembling in the darkness of my living room. A baby. This changed things. It didn't change the truth, but it changed the playing field. The next day, I called Ventura. I told him about the pregnancy. He sighed. That complicates things emotionally, Alisa, but not legally, he said. Theft is still theft, and Daniela is still a liar who told me you were dead. Ventura had a plan. As a board member of an associated firm, he requested an internal investigation into Daniela's company, Mishi and Associates, citing anonymous concerns about intellectual property integrity. He recommended an impartial and expert external consultant to review the files. The consultant was me. It was brilliant. I was being paid to investigate my own sister. For a week, I sat in a windowless conference room, going through Daniela's work history. And then came the day of the confrontation. I was sat in an observation room behind a one-way mirror. Daniela walked into the main conference room looking nervous but arrogant. She still didn't know I was involved. The firm's lawyers, led by a woman named Patricia Chen, questioned her. She lied. She lied with impressive fluency. This authentic connection strategy was my creation. Yes, born from a moment of inspiration. Then, Patricia Chen, whom I had briefed about the typo, laid the trap. Interesting. Can you explain your choice of words? Specifically on page 4, where you talk about the importance of consumer conscientia, but you spell it with an SC? I saw Daniela turn pale through the glass. She tried to recover. Yes, the use of SC. It was a stylistic choice to denote the moral conscience of the brand, not just awareness. Patricia Chen didn't even blink. Fascinating. Because that's the exact same spelling mistake your sister, Alisa Lowe, consistently made. And it's in her original drafts, created 2 years before your inspiration. We have the metadata. Mrs. Hart, would you care to explain why the name, Alisa Lowe, appears as the author on your file? Daniela crumbled. She went white as a sheet, started hyperventilating, and asked for her lawyer. I thought I had one. I was wrong. A week later, the firm called me. Miss Lowe. We appreciate your work. However, given Mrs. Hart's delicate personal situation, her pregnancy and the risks of a public lawsuit, we have decided to place her on an indefinite paid leave. Paid leave? I screamed. She just admitted to theft. It's a complicated internal matter. Thank you for your services. They had betrayed me. To protect their own reputation, they let her go with a slap on the wrist. 2 days later, Daniela posted on all her social media, "I have been the victim of a vicious attack by a family member with known mental health issues and jealousy. I thank my company for investigating and finding no wrongdoing. I will now take some time to focus on my health and my growing family." She called me crazy and jealous to the whole world. The war had just begun. I called Ventura, fuming. They let her go. And she's slandering me. Ventura was calm. Corporations are cowards. They always protect the bottom line. Forget corporate justice. It's time to use the heavy artillery. It's time to take this to the court of public opinion. What do you mean? I have a friend, a real investigative journalist, the kind that takes down politicians. Her name is Elena January. The name rang a bell. January, Elena January. From high school. Ventura laughed. It seems so. She told me she had a personal interest in your sister's story. The old friend from the text message. We met at a Vips. Elena Jan was no longer the shy girl with glasses, she was a woman with a gaze of steel. Elisa Lowe, she said, extending her hand. I've been waiting for this story for 20 years. 20 years. Your sister didn't just bully me in high school. She stole an essay from me, my final literature essay, and submitted it as her own. When I accused her, your father intervened. He threatened to sue the school for defamation. I was suspended for making false accusations. It almost ruined my record. We looked at each other, two victims of the same family. Give me everything you have, Elisa, she said. The metadata, your mother's audio, the inheritance extortion. I'm not going to write a gossip piece. I'm going to write a forensic expose that will demolish their reputation brick by brick. I gave her everything. A week later, just as Elena was about to publish, my father showed up at my apartment unannounced. He was livid. Stop this, he yelled, walking in without permission. I know you spoke to that journalist. And what if I did? They're using you, Elisa. This is a family matter. It became a public matter when you humiliated me at that wedding. It became a criminal matter when you stole from your dying daughter. He paled. How? I know everything, Dad. Grandma Gracia's money. The 5 million pesos. He took a step back, and then I saw, for the first time in my life, real fear in his eyes. Stop her, he pleaded. I'll give you the money. The 5 million. Take it and disappear. Buy your stupid bakery and get out. It's not about the money, Dad. It's about the truth. You don't understand what you're doing, he shouted, and in his panic, he confessed. If that woman starts digging, she won't just find the inheritance, she'll find the community fund. The community fund? He clapped a hand over his mouth, too late. I took money, he admitted, desperate. Just a little. 1.5 million pesos to help Daniela with the down payment on her house. I was going to pay it back. If she publishes this, if the auditors start looking. Elisa, I'll go to jail. He had stolen money meant for the poor to give to his rich daughter. I stared at him. The great man, the pillar of the community, a common thief. Get out of my house, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Elisa, please, get out of my house. He ran out. I leaned against the door, trembling. Now I truly had everything. While Elena Jan prepared her article, I did something unexpected. I took the 850,000 pesos my mother had left me in that secret account. But I didn't hire a lawyer. I didn't buy a new car. I did what my father had mockingly told me to do. I rented a small stall in a farmer's market. I bought a second-hand oven and the best ingredients, and I opened a stand called Rosa's Table. I put up a photo of my mother smiling in her nurse's uniform and, using Grandma's leather notebook, I started baking. I made the churros Mom used to make for us on Sunday mornings. I made the pan de muerto with her secret recipe of orange and anise. I made the mole that Grandma Gracia had taught her. The first weekend, I thought I wouldn't sell anything. Then an old woman approached. "Excuse me. Rosa. Was Rosa your mother?" "Yes," I answered nervously. The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Your mother. Your mother brought me a pot of this mole every week for 6 months when my husband was dying of cancer. She sat with me. She saved me from depression. That day, I sold out. The next weekend, people were lining up. One man told me, Rosa watched my kids for free for a year so I could take a second job. A young woman told me, Rosa paid for my university textbooks one semester when my father lost his job. I realized my mother's legacy wasn't the money, it was the lives she had touched. I wasn't selling bread, I was sharing her love. The following Tuesday, the world exploded. Elena Jan's article was on the front page of the country's most important digital newspaper. The headline was devastating, "The woman they called Parasite, how a marketing executive built her career on her sister's stolen ideas." It was a masterpiece of forensic journalism. There was the metadata, the screenshot of the original author, Elisa Lowe. There was the interview with Patricia Chen, the firm's lawyer, admitting to irregularities. There was Elena's own story of the stolen high school essay. And then there was the second part, the financial audit. Elena had uncovered the shell company, Heart Consulting, that my father used to divert the 1.5 million pesos from the community fund to Daniela's account. The article didn't just accuse, it showed the receipts. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Daniela was fired for cause that same morning. Her husband, Cesar, whose name was on the mortgage for the house bought with stolen money, filed for divorce that afternoon, citing fraud. But my father's situation was worse. The community fund was public money. The city council called an emergency public hearing, and I was subpoenaed to testify. The room was packed TV cameras, reporters, and dozens of residents from the poor neighborhoods my father had stolen from. When I was called to the stand, my legs were shaking. I held my mother's photo in one hand and the microphone in the other. "My name is Elisa Lowe. I am here today," I said, my voice echoing in the silence, "not to destroy my family. I am here to honor my mother, Rosa, a woman who was silenced by fear." I spoke. I told the story of my grandmother's inheritance. I told how my father had threatened a dying woman. "The man who stole 1.5 million pesos meant for the poor of this city," I said, looking directly at him, "is the same man who stole my inheritance. And he is the same man who called me a disgrace and a parasite for leaving my career to care for the woman he abandoned and extorted." The room erupted in shouts. My father was called to the stand. The man who came was not the titan who had terrorized me my whole life. He was a pale, sweating, hunched old man. He broke down. In a sobbing public confession, he admitted everything. The theft of the inheritance, the coercion of Rosa, the diversion of community funds. And I ask for forgiveness, he babbled, looking at me. I ask for forgiveness from my daughter Elisa. I called her a disgrace when she was the only person with integrity in this family. The council voted unanimously to remove him from his position and refer the case to the Attorney General's office for fraud and embezzlement. Justice, not revenge. Justice. I left the hearing feeling empty but at peace. I was in the parking lot looking for my Suru when I saw her. Daniela, sitting on the curb alone under a streetlight. Her arrogance was gone. She was wearing gray sweatpants. Her blonde hair was dull and pulled back in a messy bun. Her nearly 3-month pregnancy was a small curve under her sweatshirt. She saw me and didn't scream. She didn't insult me. She just looked at me with swollen eyes. You won, she whispered, her voice broken. I stopped. It wasn't a competition, Daniela. Yes. It was. And I lost everything. My job, my husband, my house. Dad's going to jail. And the worst part, she choked on a sob, is that I finally get it. I'm not crying because I got caught. I'm crying because finally, I see what I did to you. I stole your career, she whispered. But I stole more than that. I stole Mom from you. Those last 3 years. I should have been there. And I left you alone. And then I spit on you. I'm a monster. It was the first real apology I had heard from her in 30 years. I sat down on the curb next to her, a few feet away. I told her about the bakery stand, about the stories of Mom. And I told her about Mr. Gustavo Morales. Who? She asked. Another man whose life Mom saved. He donated 3.5 million pesos. I'm opening the Rosa and Elisa Foundation, to help women who left their careers to care for a family member get back on their feet. She looked at me, confused. Mom believed in second chances, I said. And even though you don't deserve one, she would have given you one. I paused, making the hardest decision of my life. I want you to volunteer. 1 year. No pay, no credit. Helping the women whose careers were stolen, just like you stole mine. You'll clean floors, serve coffee. You'll listen to their stories. It's either that, or you never speak to me again. Daniela looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of shock and hope. She nodded slowly. Yes. I'll do it. When do I start? Monday, I said. And Daniela, don't you dare be late. A week after the hearing, Pastor Ruth called me. Elisa. It's time. The family lawyer wants to see you. I went to the church, confused. But Pastor, there's nothing left. Grandma's money is gone. Not all of it, she smiled. In her office was the lawyer, an older man named Mr. Brennan. Miss Lowe, he said, your grandmother Gracia was an exceptionally astute woman. She knew who her daughter Rosa had married, and she took precautions. He opened a briefcase. The will for the 5 million pesos your father stole was the public will. But your grandmother created a second, secret trust. My heart stopped. A trust of another 5 million pesos, set up 30 years ago. And it has been earning interest ever since. What? How much? I stammered. As of today, the trust is worth just over 60 million pesos. 60 million pesos. But why not give it to Mom? Why to me? Ah, Pastor Ruth intervened. That's your grandmother's genius. The conditions were very strict. The money could not be touched. It could only be released to one of her grandchildren. The grandchild who, in the sole judgment of the trustee, demonstrated moral courage in the face of family tyranny and chose justice over revenge. She looked at me, her eyes shining. Elisa, for the last 3 months, you have faced tyranny. And when you had all the power to destroy your father and sister out of revenge, you chose justice. You chose redemption. The lawyer passed me the papers. The money is yours, Miss Lowe. You passed the test. Along with the papers was an old letter, the paper yellowed. My grandmother Gracia's handwriting. To my granddaughter who reads this, if you are holding this letter, it is because you chose. You chose between being right and doing right. You chose between revenge and justice. Money can be stolen, careers can be stolen, but character cannot be stolen, Elisa. Character can only be given away. And you did not give yours away. Use this to build. With love, your Nana Gracia. I donated half of those 60 million to the Rosa and Elisa Foundation. The circle was complete. The next year was a blur. My father took a plea deal. He avoided prison thanks to his public confession but was sentenced to probation, full restitution of the $1.5 million, had to sell his house, and 1,000 hours of community service. I never spoke to him again. Daniela kept her word. She showed up on the first day at the foundation, 8 months pregnant. She cleaned toilets, served coffee. She cried silently as she listened to stories from women that were identical to mine. One day, I found her in the break room. "Therapy helps," she said quietly. I realized. My whole life, Dad told me I had to be the winner and you had to be the loser. I was so afraid of becoming you that I became him. Months after her baby was born, she asked for my permission to make a public apology video. Not a PR post, but a real confession. She filmed it with no makeup, holding her baby. She detailed everything. The theft, the lie about my death, the manipulation. The video went viral, but this time for the right reasons. It inspired a national debate about intellectual property theft and family abuse. It's been 3 years since the wedding. Today is my 40th birthday. The Rosa and Elisa Foundation now has offices in 4 cities. We've helped over 1,000 women start over. My bakery stall became a cafe that trains and employs the women from our foundation. I'm engaged. His name is Simone. He's a good man, an architect who met my mother once at a charity event and said he never forgot her smile. This morning, I went to the cemetery to visit Mom. It was her birthday. I brought fresh churros. I wasn't alone. Daniela was there with her 3-year-old daughter, Rosita, and her new baby, 1-year-old Gracia. She had gotten back together with her husband, Cesar. They were rebuilding their life slowly, honestly. Rosita ran to me. "Auntie Elisa, did you bring churros?" We sat on the grass, the 3 of us. My 2 nieces, my sister, and me, eating churros by Mom's grave. The relationship isn't perfect, it never will be. There are too many scars. But it's real. Daniela looked at me. "Happy birthday, sister." I smiled. "Thanks, sister. I didn't win by destroying my family. I won by refusing to let them destroy me. My mother's legacy wasn't money or pain. It was this moment. It was the justice that heals. My sister Daniela and I are rebuilding our relationship one day at a time, for my nieces. But I have never answered my father's letters. He completed his probation, paid back the money, but I can't find space in my heart for him. What would you do? Do you think I should give him a chance, or are some betrayals simply unforgivable? Am I wrong for protecting my peace and keeping my distance? Let me know your opinion in the comments. Thank you for listening to Elisa's story. If this story moved you or if you've also had to fight to find your own voice, please like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our narratives. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching.